Welcome to Duality Gamecast, sponsored by Gladiator Games. Today's episode, Top 3 Deck Building Games.
Welcome to Duality Gamecast. I'm William.
I'm Matt.
Today we're talking about our top 3 deck builders. But before we get started, Matt, what is a deck builder?
Traditional deck builder is a competitive game where each player starts with a stock set of cards and they look to add to that set to build on efficiencies, whatever the victory conditions are. So you'll have cards initially that allow you to buy new cards, draw cards, take some kind of actions, but they're all very basic. And there'll be a pool of cards which you're purchasing from. And these are going to either help you get more resources, new resources, take more actions, buy prettier victory point cards, or whatever it takes to win that game.
All right. Well, on to our list then. All right, so number 3. Matt, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Eminent Domain. Eminent Domain is an awesome space opera themed deck builder with some mechanics I haven't really seen in other deck builders. So for instance, you're not just buying cards to add to your deck or tune your deck. You can also follow the actions of other people. So you have roles that you choose that trigger some action, colonizing, getting fighters for attacking, drawing cards, looking for planets to colonize. And other people can follow that action without actually getting a card that they're putting in their deck. So really unique, and the flow of the game is real smooth, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and it has another thing where you aren't actually having to buy the cards. Every turn you're picking a card from a pool of cards. It's a set, like it's 6 or 7 of them. And every turn you're picking one. That's the card you're adding to your deck. So you aren't dealing with the resource management in terms of building your deck up. The resource management is like you're building up your victory points on the board, which is interesting and a little bit different than most deck builders. Yeah. So my number 3 was Legendary Alien Encounters. It was a huge step up from the Marvel Legendary one for me. I enjoyed it, but the cooperative nature of it and the fact that there was stuff that came out on the board that was hidden and you didn't know about and then it surprised you, just added this whole cool, fun, really on-theme feeling to it, where when you're playing the game, you're like, game over, man! You don't know what's happening, things look grim the whole time, and it really improved an engine that I was okay with, but took it up to a whole nother level. In fact, I think it would have been even higher on my list if it wasn't for one negative point of it, which is killer setup.
Yeah.
The box is just full of cards, you're organizing the decks ahead of time, shuffling stuff, putting stuff on top of each other, added a lot of complexity to the setup that you had to fight through to get to the really fun, meaty game part.
Yeah, the setup is all you in that game. It's way too complicated for me. But the payoff is huge because I would say, unlike, for me, Marvel, the Alien Legendary game, the theme really comes out. Mm-hmm. Plus, it's not just a cooperative game, but it puts in this sort of trader mechanic where you can turn into an alien and fight against your former teammates, which was a lot of fun.
It was. Okay, so number 2. Matt, what you got?
I'm going with Trains. This game's been out for a couple of years. It has 2 standalone versions plus some expansion boards. This game, a lot of people would say, is Dominion over again, but with trains. But they took it to the next level. It went a different direction because they added a board where creating routes and building up cities became a thing, which you don't see normally in any kind of deck builder.
Yeah.
So that was a really unique way to put a new spin on deck building. Plus, because it is kind of Dominion-like, there's a ton of variability and there's a lot of combo building, which just, for me, makes it a lot of fun.
I agree, yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's about the combo building and the fact that a card with just one little number tweaked on it can have a completely different effect on the game. One extra card draw, one extra piece of waste, and it changes how the card works. My number 2 is Star Realms. Basically, that is for me, it's kind of an improvement over Ascension. Same basic type of mechanic where there's something out on the board. They have, what is it, like 5 or 6 cards out on the board. Every time you buy one, a new one replaces it. There's different factions. If I hadn't said Star Realms ahead of time, you might have thought I was talking about Ascension right now. The difference is that the gameplay is a lot quicker. It's a lot more in your face. You're actually damaging and attacking other players instead of trying to just reach like a victory point total. And the actual factions play a big part in this. Matching factions with other factions is a big point of the game. So you can try to mix and match. You can try to go all one color, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, they took I always wished with Ascension that the different factions was something you could work with more throughout the game, and you can't. And with Star Realms, you do feel like you can go that way. It's still not where I would like it to be, but it's a big improvement. Plus, you add portability, the competitiveness of PvP. So, yeah, fun game.
Fun game. All right, so this is the big one. Number 1. Matt, what's your first pick?
I had to go with the granddaddy. I went with Dominion. Yeah, trains added a new dimension to Dominion, basically, although it's not Dominion. But I don't know. There's so much replayability with Dominion. There's so many sets, so many cards, so many different spins you can put on it just from the swapping out 10 different cards. And it did it right the first time. Like, the reason this game has been so successful isn't just because it was the first one, but it was still one of the best. And I really enjoy it. I'll play the base set anytime, so I had to go with Dominion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's simple, it's clean, it just works. There's no real weird rule problems or anything with it. It just flows. Yeah, it's something that we still have on our shelf. We're still playing it. It doesn't wear itself out. We haven't even gotten all the expansions or anything for it. It's still fun. Just the base game alone has tons of replayability. But that kind of segues into my number 1, which is Trains, which to me just took Dominion, added a little bit more complexity flavor to it, but mechanically very similar. But to me, that extra little bit just took it up a whole nother level. And it's kind of on theme with all of the games that I have on my list, which are basically direct improvements, I feel, of a previous game. Yeah. Trains, we talked about it earlier, so I won't harp too much on it, but it took Dominion, improved it, kind of fleshed it up for the modern world, because it's been so long now, and just it's a fun time.
Yeah, area control plus a deck builder, and not boring or too long. So they did it well.
Yeah.
No problem with that.
Right there in the sweet spot. All right, so we've talked about what the best are. Let's talk about some ones that kind of missed the mark. Maybe not the worst, but the ones that kind of let us down. Matt, what's one on your list?
For letdown, I'm going to go with a game called Nightfall. It had a good theme, the horror theme, vampires, werewolves, that kind of thing. It had pretty good art.
Yeah.
And it brought in a mechanic that I'd never seen before, where there were symbols on each card. It was 3, right? Mm-hmm. And they were associated with different factions or different types of creature, and you could chain them together. So you play one that matches it, something could happen. You play something that maybe matches the off one on it, then something else could happen. And it felt like when we first heard about it and we first played it, we were thinking, okay, this is kind of be like some crazy magic combo things happening in this cool little deck builder with a horror theme. It never really came to fruition. I never saw the great combos, and I never felt like we were able to do it in a nice, clean way. So there was something in the build of those mechanics that just didn't quite work out.
Yeah, and it's because there's 3 moons, basically. There's a big moon, which is like its color, and the 2 small moons, which if I remember right, is the ones you can chain off of. It was hard to visualize, because you're looking at it, and you're going, all right, wait a minute, okay, so I have a red moon, this one has a little red moon, and you start trying to set stuff up, and you realize, no, wait, I was looking at it the wrong way in my mind. You had to figure it out. It's something that on paper, when we first heard about it, I was excited about it too. I was like, this is going to be awesome. You're going to be chaining stuff. When you do stuff and you finish, the player to your left can chain off of the cards you just played. It goes around the table. All cool sounding stuff. It just didn't flow right. It just didn't feel right to, I guess, either one of us, but to you especially. One of the ones that let me down was Eaten by Zombies. This is a Kickstarter that I backed. I enjoyed the game, but it just wasn't what I was hoping to get out of it. The big problem with it is that there's basically 2 resources. It's like run and fight. So you're either running from the zombies every turn or you're fighting the zombies. But those resources are also what you use to escape or kill zombies, but then you use that same resource to buy stuff. And you could get into weird situations where someone could combo and have huge amounts of cards, and cards you buy go into your hand. So for a few turns, someone could get a bunch of fight, kill some zombies. Those go in your deck, which clog you up. But then they're allowed to use that fight to buy cards, so they can basically buy the cards they just used to do that cool engine, put them right back in their hand, and next turn do it again, and everyone else is still struggling. So if someone gets one good turn, they can pull really far ahead in that game. And the theme was cool. Like they did zombies in a fun way because it was like kind of like 50s like time period. It had some glitches in the gameplay, I feel.
Yeah, the theme on paper sounded cool. I just never got the feel that it was coming out in the game. And that was a big problem for me.
Yeah. And then there's one other game that we want to mention. We don't harp on it too much, but there's one that we both agreed is probably the worst deck builder we played, and that's Pixel Lincoln.
Yeah, don't play that game.
Just to harp on it for just a second, the mechanics were kind of simple. There was basically, you just build up fight to fight things. It had this, it was trying to go for like this 8-bit side-scrolling video game thing. Didn't feel like that either. There's different monsters and stuff, but there's basically just different art. It didn't really change the game. Boring game. It's on the bottom of both of our lists.
No replayability.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Appreciate you watching our video. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was a look at deck builders and our top 3 deck builders. What are your favorite deck builders, or dice builders, or bag builders, whatever you want to call them? Let us know in the comments below. Click on me to subscribe, and thank you to all these people for helping out.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I like Jello pudding pop.